All right, welcome everybody. We have a special guest here today. Chris is out of town and off doing other things, so I thought, well, I'm going to bring in somebody else then. And so we have Martyn Wood with us today. And what we're going to be talking about today is the role that faith plays in your business. And I think this is just such a, the older I get, the more I value the role that faith does play in my business. And, I have a lot of experience working in other companies and so forth. And my wife works for a company. And, basically the attitude from them is that faith has no place in the business place. That they even, they just can't even understand it. They expect you to keep your personal beliefs to yourself, unless, of course, you're on the woke side. Then you can shove your stuff in anybody's face and come dressed to work in a furry costume. But that's another
for another day.
That's another day. That's another day. We're not going to go down that one.
Come back, David.
Yeah, all right. I got to pull you. See, that's part of your job. You got to keep me back on track.
Mm-hmm.
So today what we're doing is I wanted to have a conversation with Design Launch Grow's very own faith building coach and Martyn Wood. And we're going to push back on that narrative a little bit, that faith does not have a place in the business. So Martyn, welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you here with us. For those people who may not be familiar with you, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself and your journey that you've been on over these past several years to help and work with entrepreneurs.
Okay, great. Thanks, Dave. It's just an honor to be part of the podcast. Been following it. Really believe in what you and Chris are doing. And now more than ever, I would say faith and business need to be walking parallel. I found this out. I would say probably I was out of work, and I'd been praying, God, give me a job. My friend who was working for a company at a time, she was in marketing. She said they're looking for somebody in the warehouse. She goes, I know you've never done warehouse. I said, okay, but would you like to try it? There's an opening. And I thought, well, maybe it's God, because I had been praying. Little did I know that was going to lead me to 10 years. It was going to be stretching. It was going to be challenging. It was both soul shaping, and if anywhere, it was one of my first tastes of when you bring faith into a more corporate setting. And my boss was a Christian, and you would think that would have been a challenge or would have been good, but unfortunately, for a while, it was a challenge and it got to the point where I was just having daily loggerheads. And so as a result of that, Holy Spirit said, start praying for him, specifically start blessing him. Our relationship changed. We began to be great friends. And long story short, when his church asked him to take on the role of eldership, he only invited one person from the company, and that was me and my wife. And I was honored to stand beside him. So there was that. During that time, I was also looking into life coaching, and I was interested in the format of it because it wasn't just simply about someone coming to you and you providing the answers. Coaching was, okay, I may not have been where you are, but let's walk this together. And I really appreciated that because it empowered both the coach as well as the participant. So I was doing that. And then one of my giftings is the prophetic. So Holy Spirit will speak to me and give me words, and in my case, pictures when it gives me the words for people. And it was between 2014 and 2015, I was doing some life coaching, and he clearly said, I want you to do what you do at church, bring it into the coaching. And I was like, oh, okay. And the moment that I brought and invited him into these sessions, everything completely changed. And I truly saw more than ever how important and how impactful the role of faith and business were, because you tap into an unlimited resource that frankly, the enemy doesn't want us tapping into. And so that's part of the reason that for me, faith and business walk the same path.
Yeah, that's great. I agree with you 100%. My journey has been one where the more I've gone down the entrepreneurial path, the more I realize I have to lean into my faith. But
Mhm.
how would you respond to people who say the opposite? How would you respond to people who say that, you know what, your faith is your personal choices, it's your personal things. It really has no place in the world of business.
Well, the Bible says, and it challenges us as people of faith, that whenever we're doing work, we should do it as if we were doing it unto God. So for us, we already have a higher standard. But for people who don't believe or don't think faith belongs at work, they're believing in something. They're either believing in their own skills,
Mhm.
they're believing in something that they have done, they're believing in the company mantra. So I push back because there is faith. The problem is they're not going to declare it as faith because, oh no, I'm stronger than that, because they perceive faith as weakness. And the sad part is it's the exact opposite. My faith only makes me stronger. My faith only gives me a better perspective and allows me to be able to see the world the way my Savior wants me to. And it helps me from becoming cynical or judgmental or a lot of the other things that you see if you turn on most news. So I'll take my faith over negative news all day long.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I remember all the way back to when I was, in my early days of work, when I was working in the world of banking. And the last bank that I worked for, towards the end, things were not going well. I mean, the bank was on its last legs. We were walking down the path of going to be sold because we had the leadership of the bank had made a lot of decisions that weren't terrific. They were non They took on a lot of risk. They
Yeah.
did a lot of things that was not wise. And when the subprime crisis hit, we were heavily invested in subprime mortgages.
Oh, boy.
And yeah, we were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Wow.
That's for sure. But what I saw in that process was that my coworkers who didn't have any faith basis, right? They were really people that didn't have any real religious background or didn't have any real strong belief in God. They were crumbling.
Mm-hmm.
They were living under constant stress and anxiety, and they were awful to be around.
Yeah.
Because it was like walking into a powder keg. You didn't know at any moment that thing could go off and blow up in your face, and you didn't even have any idea why. Like, why are you all of a sudden so mad? Why are you so upset? And you're just like, you just kind of gave them a wide berth wherever you were because I don't want to go near these people.
Yeah.
And I noticed that the people who didn't have any faith guiding them through there were the ones that were stressed up to their eyeballs, who were the ones that were always miserable and unhappy and covered in anxiety, and they had no peace for anything that was coming because we all knew things weren't going well. You didn't have to be super intelligent to be able to discern that this is not going in a great direction. We could all see it, but there were certain ones of us that had peace. They could say, okay, we're going to walk this out and it'll be okay because I got somebody over here who's got my back.
Right.
And to help me and who's going to guide me through all this. And on the other side, the people who had nothing were the ones that felt like it was all on their own shoulders to navigate this maze that we were going through, and they were a mess. So I have that side of it, and the other side of it is I look at it as I have intelligence up to a point.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain amount of things that I by myself can figure out.
Yep.
But that has a ceiling, and it's a very clear ceiling. And there are some things in life I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. Once I get past that one level, I'm like, I'm clueless as to what to do next. I don't know. but I have access to somebody who has all the knowledge.
Right.
I have access to somebody who has access to all of the answers that I will need. And so I'd go, well, why wouldn't I want to ask him for advice? Because he knows what he's doing 1,000 times more than I do. So,
And equally as important to that point, knows me better than I know myself, because his word says, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you. And the you that he knew is the you that we may not see ourselves as. And I'm not trying to get too trippy, but you're absolutely right. Even the smartest human will reach a point of ceiling where he or she will get to the point where I don't know. And it's at that point, as people of faith, we don't have to. I like it how somebody else said yesterday. I actually was listening to a message from one of the pastors of the church that I go to. And he said, why is it that we feel that we have to wait until we hit rock bottom before we start praying? When we are told we have access to our source of peace, of joy, of life, of hope, of wisdom, right at the beginning. And that's why I am so passionate about faith and business, because it's exactly like you're saying, Dave. Something could come that could be so insurmountable that from my human perspective, oh, I'm toast. But the Bible says, because I'm a person of faith in Romans, if I died with him, I'm buried with him, I'm raised with him. That means a part of me is ruling and reigning with him. That means when the circumstances look like they're reigning or ruling over me, I just have to remember it's a shift of perspective, and I actually am over those circumstances. As I heard it said, sometimes the size of our circumstances need to be introduced to the greatness of our God. And that is one of the very reasons that I believe you cannot separate, or if you choose to separate faith from business, you are taking out an asset that is absolutely, there isn't anything that can replace it in any shape or form.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But then the question becomes, why do people resist this so much? If there's so much benefit to having your faith be part of your business journey, so much benefit to that, why do you think people push against it so much? What's behind that idea that faith and business should have nothing to do with each other?
Two things. The enemy, because he knows the closer we get, and any opportunity that we have to invite Father, Jesus, Holy Spirit into what it is we're doing, we have unlimited access. He doesn't want that, because the other thing that I think is keeping it's pride. We, as people, don't want to acknowledge when we need help. And the sad part is, and the lie is, but if I reach out to God, or if I let people know that I'm a follower of Christ, well, that means, oh, here comes you don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. But more like, oh, well, you're weak because your faith is your crutch. Mm-hmm. They're right. I am weak, but my faith is not my crutch. My faith is the strength, because it's not me. 1 Corinthians says, it is Christ in me. Ephesians 1 says, Christ in me is the hope of glory. But the enemy wants us to compartmentalize our lives. And it's like, okay, the religious aspects, yes, God there. But all the other aspects, no, you don't need him. And I think part of the challenge is when it doesn't look like something that we need other people, or, oh, I've got the skill sets, I can handle that. Yeah, you can. But here's the other side. And you just mentioned it earlier. We're limited. We're finite. So no matter how we could be Stephen Hawkins, we could be whoever. You are only going to come up with so many solutions. Whereas when we plug faith into a problem, you have access, and you have unlimited access 24/7 to resources from the infinite. That now means I've got infinite wisdom. I've got infinite opportunity. I know you agree with me on this, that any part in my life where I've seen God or I've invited Father into it, it exponentially gets better. So if I've got an area where I'm getting blessed, if I've got an area where he's meeting my needs and exceeding them, if I'm saying as an entrepreneur that I want to be in the marketplace, but I also recognize that as a person of faith, I need to be a person of faith and be a quote minister to the marketplace, then to not bring faith into that, it's like bringing a knife to a gunfight. It's not going to work. And you're actually putting yourself at a disadvantage, because you know what? The enemy's certainly going to give other people stuff to use. You talked about it before. There's fear. There's criticism. There's all these things. We need to be able to come into a place and face a situation with more than just human wisdom. And that's why faith is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, some of the reason too that people resist this is I think it forces people to be honest about who they are.
Oh, absolutely.
I think there's a point of this where you have to admit, if you're going to admit your need for God to help lead you and guide you, if you're going to admit your need for him in your life, then you also have to admit some things about yourself.
Absolutely. Yes.
And that means that you're not capable of doing it alone. It means that you're not all of that. It means that you don't have all the answers. It means that you are going to have to admit to the fact that you're a sinful, broken person.
Yep.
And I think those things that I see in a lot of people, that people don't want to do that. Yep. They don't want to own their own stuff. They don't want to admit to the fact that, yeah, I've really made a mess of things in my life. And they don't want to admit that I need help. I need somebody to come in here and to help pick me up at times, and to carry me at times, and to guide me at times, because I've made a mess of things. And I think that you mentioned pride earlier, and I think that does play a role in a lot of this too, is that people don't want to admit it. They don't want to sit there and say, yeah, I'm kind of a mess, and I need some help cleaning up the mess that I've created. And that's something that people just don't want to go there. Like you said, people, well, that's just your crutch. Well, okay, you think you don't need a crutch? I see you. You're hobbling around like you got two broken legs. You're barely walking, and you don't think you need a crutch? A crutch would make walking a whole lot easier for you, to be honest with you. And I don't think it's a crutch. I think it's actually becomes your strength.
Oh yeah,
it's just their perspective. But I'm like, you think you don't need help walking? I see you walking. You walk horribly. So go ahead.
I think also it's that, especially as entrepreneurs, the enemy will lie and make it appear that, an entrepreneur is going to be a lone wolf. An entrepreneur has to be someone who carves their own path and brings something to market that nobody else has done. And some of that is true. But here's where the lie comes in. Even Jesus, who was fully God and fully man, in his humanness, still needed to have other people around him. Mm-hmm. If the Son of God recognized his own humanness and chose to engage with other people, then I think that's an example that we need to really pay attention to, because if Jesus is going, I can't do this alone. Of course, he did Calvary alone because he was the one who could, but he didn't do life alone. That's another reason why we need to have community. That's another reason why we need to have people, an inner circle that will both speak the truth, but will also be able there to encourage. And the best thing to do is to have people who you can share your faith journey with, who know the same God that you do, who believe some of the same things. No, not some, correction, who believe the same as you do, so they can walk alongside with you, because sometimes there are things that are greater than us. But the good thing is, and we're reminded in his word, Jesus says, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. So we always have opportunity to come alongside and either draw from his strength or also draw strength from each other. But frankly, I don't have time to try and convince somebody of my side, because, fires could be happening here and there. But I do want somebody that I know, if I need counsel, if I need wisdom, I want a brother or sister like you who can speak that into my life. And I know, because they genuinely care about me, that they're going to speak the truth. Sometimes that truth is going to be hard, but that truth may be exactly what I need to hear, and may even be God speaking through them, and is an answer to a prayer that I've been praying that I don't even know, because I'm not paying attention or thinking or limiting how Father's going to answer. And yet he brings the answer through another brother or sister, so that the entrepreneurial journey doesn't become this lone wolf thing. Because the problem with that, then the enemy just waits and picks people off one at a time. And that's why we need each other. But that's why we need to have community of people like-minded who understand the power of both the calling and the faith journey.
I agree 100%. And that's one of the, in our Design, Launch, Grow community, that's one of the three, we have 3 C's, coaching, content, and community. Those are the
Absolutely.
3 things that we talk about. You need content that shows you what you should do and how you should do it. You need coaching. You need people that ask questions and help answer things when you get stuck. And you need community. You need people who do exactly what you're talking about, who can rally around you and help you understand. So let's say somebody says, okay, I'm willing to start accepting the fact that maybe I should be bringing my faith into the business world, especially in particular as an entrepreneur.
Yep.
What do you see? What changes could you see happening in them if they do that? If they take those steps and start bringing that in, how would their business change? How would their life change if they did something like that?
Well, first of all, imagine someone has been walking around with 1,000 pounds of pressure, and now and yet they're trying to get through all the things that they need to do. And yet someone comes along and says, I can take that off your shoulders. Most people are going to say yes. But the sad part is there's not enough people who are recognizing you're carrying that weight. Would you like to take it off? That's what Christ offers to us. So first of all, the pressure's gone. Second of all, I'm not alone. I now have a divine partner who wants my best, who brings his best, and who challenges me to therefore bring my best. I now am a more compassionate person. I now am a more caring person. I now am hopefully a more patient person. But at the same time, maybe what also fires up is new levels of creativity, because now the one who created me is helping give me solutions that I might not have ever thought of because I hadn't invited him into it. But I think at the end of the day, the biggest difference, if I do something on my own, the results are on me, but the enemy will trap us, because if it works, pride. If it doesn't, shame. But now we change that equation and we say, Jesus, I need you in this. Now, suddenly, the results are not on me. The results are in co-partnership with the God of the universe, who's already gone ahead and knows how things are going to end off. So to me, it's just such an incredible paradigm shift, because every worry, James 1:5, we can bring it to him and he'll give us wisdom. Proverbs 3:4, 5, and 6. If I don't lean on my own understanding, but acknowledge him in all my ways, his promise to me is he'll direct my paths. Those aren't just words. That's a promise. And you and I have both seen it. When we hold Father at his word, through his word, life gets better. Life changes, and situations that we can't fathom or understand or figure out, he provides a way. And sometimes he's already opened the door and we've been knocking and knocking and knocking, and he already goes ahead.
Yeah, and I would like to add one thing to what you said, which is clarity. I think that to me is one of the biggest benefits that comes throughout all of this. And that is, I know that as on my own journey, as an entrepreneur, on the journey that I've been on the last about 15 years now. Sounds crazy to even say that word. It's been that long, I guess. But
yeah,
I have had so many moments where you have to make decisions. Yep. Should I do this or should I not do this? Should I spend the money on that? Should I not? Should I do this kind of a promotion? Should I not? Should I pursue that? Should I do this? And if you make poor decisions along the way, your success can not only be delayed, it could be completely derailed.
Yeah.
It is very easy to take advice from another person, to take counsel from somebody who doesn't have your best interest at heart, who just sold you into their system, and you bought into it and you went all in. And next thing you know, you spend the next year chasing down a path that is nothing but a dead end.
Yep.
It's not going anywhere. It's going to waste all sorts of your money. It's all going to waste all sorts of your time. And having all that, what I value so deeply about all this is the ability to have that kind of an impact on my life, where I can look at it and find ways to go, you know what? I don't think I'm supposed to go down that path. And I have, and it's a skill that gets developed over time. It's that, you and I have talked about I jokingly talk about my peace meter. I'm staring at a decision, and should I do this or should I not? And Martyn, the question you always ask me is, where's your peace meter? Where is it? Where are you? Do you feel at peace about this decision or not? Because if the Bible tells us very clearly that, let the peace of God rule in your heart.
Right.
And if you have no peace about a decision, then it's probably not God's will for you. Yeah. And I've been able to use that as a filter, and that has just saved me from so many, I won't even call them foolish decisions, but just inappropriate decisions, in terms of like, I could have wasted a lot of time and money chasing an idea and something that was going to be nothing, that would never yield a harvest, that would never turn into anything positive or significant. And instead, I could focus on the things that are correct, that are meaningful, that are good, and stay on path, because God knows the path that he wants me on. He knows the path that will lead to success, because he didn't give me this dream just to watch me fail. He gave me the dream because he wanted me to fulfill it.
Right.
So he's going to guide me down decisions in a pathway that are going to lead me to success. So if I dial into that and I lean into that and I hear that and I learn how to bring other people into my life and get their wisdom and perspective, godly people who will speak into my life and say those things, I save myself a ton of headache. And I saved myself a lot of mistakes that otherwise I very well would have made, because I didn't know any better. And
I think also, you said a moment ago, you said, I want to do Focus on the good things. And good things are great, but here's why faith is so important. Without faith, we can be doing good things, but we aren't doing the God things. Perfect example. The story of God says to Abraham, you're going to have a child. Sarah says, okay, fine. Here, use my maid because there's no way that's going to work. Father goes, because we're in covenant, I'll bless it, but he's not the one. You're going to have a son. So he blesses Ishmael, but Ishmael is not the real deal. It's Isaac. I liken that to, okay, I might have good things, but if I follow after the good things, I miss the God things. And the only way I stay in the God things is exactly like you were saying, whether it's a peace meter, whether it's other counsel. That's why at the end of the day, faith and business are fused. It is so crucial, and more and equally as important, I need my faith at times to remind me that it's not just about me, it's not a vanity project, but that I'm doing this because I'm called to make an impact in people's lives. And Father's given me a particular audience who need to be brought into a place of freedom and wholeness. And what he's given me may be that way. And so if I stop, that also delays them from coming into their place of freedom and hope. And that is crucial. That to me is why we cannot separate. And if it is, we need to bring it back so that the two become one. So that faith and business are walking together. That, I believe, is how we're going to begin to see a renaissance, a godly, righteous renaissance in the entrepreneurial arena.
Yeah, I agree. And I honestly look at people who feel like, why would you ever bring your faith into your business? You're gonna limit your audience. You're gonna limit the people you can reach. I'm like, no, it's gonna give me a strategic advantage. It's honestly going to give me advantage over the people who don't have that. And it's going to allow me to help people in a way that's better, because what it does is it creates a different kind of culture. It creates a different kind of culture that values people, that values relationships. And how do you see that, Martyn, in terms of how you treat the people you work with, in terms of how you treat your customers and how you treat all the people that you come engage? What kind of an impact does it have on the culture of how your relationships are with other people?
It's like I said, it's a paradigm shift, not just for me, but for them. Because for many, the enemy makes them think that they not only this is how they see themselves, but this is how God sees them. And then Father gives me the opportunity to go, okay, you know what? No, that may be a truth, but it's not the truth. Mm-hmm. Just to be able to give somebody an opportunity to be able to see themselves the way God sees them. And when they catch that, and then it allows them to become a fire starter for someone else. And I think that at the end of the day is what's crucial. If we help someone who might be drowning, they're also going to start to looking for other people who also might be drowning, believing that just like we were a lifesaver for them, they can be a lifesaver for someone else. And the cool thing is, and the most amazing thing about God and the way he's made us, it's not going to be the exact same way, but it's going to be the authentic way that God has made them.
Yeah, and I just feel like in a world where faith isn't there, where it's not incorporated into your ethos, into your culture, into what it is that you do, it kind of becomes every man for himself type environment, where I'm just going to do what's in my own interest and what's good for me. And if that's good for you, great. If not, screw you. You're going to just have to deal with it. And it's this every dog for himself mentality. And it creates a culture where no one trusts each other. No one wants to be around each other, because there's no community. There's no feeling of like, I want to be around these people, because I don't know when this person's going to turn on me. I don't know when this person's going to go and do something to me that's very hurtful, because I don't trust them. And so I look at that as when you have your faith infused in there, in your culture, you treat people with respect. You
Yeah.
treat them with dignity. You
Yeah.
value their opinions. You treat
Mhm.
them as a child of God, not just some person that you can use to get what you want. And when
And
you
that's
do,
crucial. And
yeah,
that's a huge difference
mhm,
because too many people have claimed to be people of faith, and yet in the way that they've interacted, they have not been. And
correct.
and our faith has been brought into the mud because people have acted in a very unchristian like way, but in the name of Christ. And so I don't, you can't, as far as I'm concerned, you can't stress that one enough.
Right. And when you have a culture where people truly love to be there, where your
Yeah,
customers love to come back to you, where your customers love to be around what you're doing, where they love to be involved in your programs,
yeah,
it changes everything. You will
absolutely.
become more successful because of it, because
Right,
people want to be with you because you're like, you treat me with dignity. You treat me with respect. You care. You actually care about whether or not I was satisfied with what I buy. You actually
right.
want me to be successful with what I'm doing. You actually are investing in me as a person. This is amazing. This is
Yeah,
wonderful. I want more of this.
yeah,
And you will grow your business instead of pulling it back because of that.
yeah,
Well, Martyn, I think I could probably sit here and talk to you for about 4 more hours easily,
probably.
and that's part of the problem I have when I get on a call with Martyn is finding a way to stop because
Mm.
he and I can go for a long, long time. So, for the sake of wrapping things up on the podcast, Martyn, obviously, if they want to connect with you, one of the ways they can is through Design Launch Grow. You're our faith
Absolutely.
building
Yep.
coach. You do calls through there. How else can people connect with you if they want to learn more about you?
Best way to connect is mastersmindnetwork.com.
Okay.
That's the website. It talks about we've done some podcast episodes in the past. It also just talks about a lot of what we've talked about, why faith and business need to come together and how we do that from the prophetic perspective.
Great. So awesome. As always, if you need help like this, if you want to engage in our community, check out designlaunchgrow.com. We would love to have you become part of what we're doing. And again, this is what we believe in. This isn't just something we're talking about. This is something we're living. And we brought Martyn in. Martyn's doing monthly faith building calls just to help encourage people, to help people get that clarity that they need for their journey to keep going down this path. So again, if you'd like to engage more with Martyn, you can go to mastersmindnetwork.com or you can join us in designlaunchgrow.com and work with Martyn either way. So that's it for today, and we will see you next time.